It's time to bring out the BetterWorldian in all of us. Welcome to BetterWorldians Radio with your hosts, Ray, Mary Sue, and Gregory Hansel. BetterWorldians Radio inspires you with the people and ideas that are making the world a better place. You'll hear how small acts can make a big difference every day. Now, here are Ray, Mary Sue, and Gregory.
Hi, and welcome to BetterWorldians Radio. BetterWorldians Radio is a weekly broadcast whose mission is to uplift and inspire you to make the world a better place. I'm Greg Hansel. BetterWorldians Radio is brought to you by BetterWorldians Foundation and is co-hosted by the family team that created the popular social game on Facebook called A Better World. It rewards players for doing good deeds while helping to raise money and awareness for charities. To date, over 40 million good deeds have been done in a better world by more than 4 million people in over 100 countries. This week on BetterWorldians Radio, we welcome Kendall Webb, founder of JustGive.org, a nonprofit organization with a mission to increase charitable giving. As a Harvard undergraduate, Kendall helped launch the World Teach program. After stints with Goldman Sachs and the World Bank, she served in Uganda as a volunteer. Upon her return to the United States, she worked on the founding team of More.com, one of the early-stage internet websites where she realized that the internet could revolutionize charitable giving. Kendall has been a thought leader in internet giving for more than a decade, offering strategic advice to organizations and companies that are incorporating charitable giving programs. Kendall, thank you for joining us today on BetterWorldians Radio.
Thanks so much for having me.
So you founded JustGive.org in 2000. What inspired you to start it up?
Well, I was working in the for-profit side on the internet, which was thriving, and people were flocking, starting to make entrepreneurial new companies all around the internet, and venture capitalists were investing lots of funding into the for-profit side. And I had always been interested in the nonprofit sector sort of on weekends and in my free time. And I decided to look into how the internet was impacting philanthropy and charitable causes. And I found out there was virtually no resources that people were investing in the charity sector at that time. And really very few people were even expending time and effort to build any internet platforms for the philanthropic sector. So I explored who was in that area, met with a few of them, and the few that I did meet were trying to actually make a profit from the work that they were doing in this sector. And since I had been working in the internet for over 5 years, I knew a lot of people who were skilled in technology, also a lot of people who had some great successes financially. So I questioned the model that you had to make profit by helping the nonprofit sector. So I thought maybe I could pull together many thought leaders and also many leading tech people, mix that with some donations from those that had found success in the tech sector, and see if we could all come together to offer a platform that was a nonprofit tech company to support the charity sector. And it very quickly came together. I hired a group of people for the best and the brightest for 1 year to launch it. And it's been running and exponentially growing ever since. It was a real success right away.
That's an incredible story. So how does JustGive.org work for donors?
So the premise initially was, the internet on the for-profit side initially was built so that you could search and sort through a large mass of information on, the library front as well as the medical front. So what I was seeing was that on the philanthropic side, there were 600,000 charities at the time. There's actually now 1.8 million charities.
Wow.
So it was a sector that was growing very quickly. It already had large numbers of organizations. And if you were curious to find an organization for yourself, you had to go to the Foundation Center, go in the building and look at a giant book that was only updated every few years. And so I thought, why can't the internet use that search and sort capability for people who are looking for interesting causes that they don't know about already through friends and family, that they can actually make substantial decisions based on the information they can find by searching this database. So we uploaded the database, and then we decided to add an e-commerce capability so people could donate. directly to any of those charities once they found them. And then from there, we added some other products, such as charity gift cards, where people can donate. They can actually buy a charity gift card for somebody in lieu of a gift, and then the person can redeem it for their favorite charity. And then we added points redemption as well, where you could redeem points for your favorite charity. So in addition to just information, we offered different ways that people could easily give to charity directly themselves.
I love that idea of the charity gift card. That's really great. You'll have to tell us more about that offline. We're happy to post that on our social media for you. That's wonderful, especially for the holidays.
Yes, it's most popular in the holidays, and it grows exponentially both for individuals and corporations, which is great.
So how do you choose which charities to support?
So we're agnostic. We want to support every large and small charity. So we have all 1.8 million charities. We use a database called GuideStar that has listed all the 501c3s in real time. So they are automatically uploaded. It's called mirror technology. So as people are creating new 501c3s and the IRS approves them, they're uploaded into GuideStar and they're automatically on our site. We also have different segmentations to help people search and sort through those. So you can do keyword searches, you can do localization searches by zip code if you want to find something in your local area. So we have a lot of parameters around that database to help people sort through that large number, but you have access to every charity possible.
So how is justgive.org different from just donating to a charity directly?
So the key to this is initially we started with the information aspect of searching and sorting, and then we realized, well, the average number of charities that an individual gives to throughout their year is 8. So why is it that we need to give to 8 different charities at the time with an envelope and a stamp? Why not enable people to give to multiple charities in a single transaction like Amazon does for retail purchases? So we quickly launched that, and what came with that is that you get a giving history. So you have one place where you can see every place you've given to in the past, and that way from year to year you can just upload that and alter it as you need. So it's like a personalized giving cart. And you can take certain things off, add certain things on, change amounts. I like it personally because I can see how much I gave to my charities last year and incrementally increase it. I also like that because my college often calls me from different departments, and I can't remember who I gave to and when. So this is a nice way to organize your giving. And then the second perk to that is that you have one single tax receipt. So a lot of times when you donate, you get a piece of paper in the mail weeks later saying this is your tax receipt to prove that you gave to this 501c3, and you might have them spread around your house at different times of the year. But we have one of our largest volume of people come right before tax time to print out their tax receipt for all the donations they've given that year. But in addition to that, it's different than giving directly to a charity because we serve the donor and we try to create as many different ways possible for them to give so that they have different options. So it doesn't necessarily have to be just a credit card donation to their favorite charity. It can be points. And that's something that we've been able to access because we're a company that offers donors to all charities. So we partner with American Express so that they can actually use their Amex points to turn them into dollars to directly give them to charity. You won't get that if you go actually to a direct charity alone.
That's great. That's a really great program. One thing I like about your site is that donors can read reviews of a charity before donating. So how have you found that that's been important, and what's been the response to that, and how does that work?
Yeah, so we partner with great nonprofits, and they're a fabulous organization. They started probably 8 years after we launched, And the background to them is they're a leading platform for community-based stories about nonprofits. Mm-hmm. So they get volunteers and donors and participants of all the nonprofits to write what their experience is about. Mm-hmm. And it's a great way to assess small nonprofits in particular that you might not know any specifics about, but you're intrigued to donate to. You can find out their effectiveness, their efficiency. It's kind of like a Yelp for restaurants before you go to a restaurant. This is a way to get sort of the inside scoop about a nonprofit. And I like this because what's been happening is there has not been any standard measure for a charity. Mm-hmm. So unlike the stock market that has certain validating measures that somebody can say, okay, I'm going to look at these 3 criteria and then compare against other stocks to figure out which one will be the best for my portfolio. Mm-hmm. For charity, they've been trying and striving ever since I launched Just Give 17 years ago. They've been trying to figure out how to do that for charities, but it's virtually impossible because any standard measure doesn't work. And one example is overhead. That was a criteria that people had for a while as a determination of efficiency and effectiveness for charities. But it turns out that if you take a hospital, for example, they have a high percentage of overhead because they own a huge building with heavy equipment. Sure. And that's a really important part of what they do. And it's a necessary part. Whereas another organization that does a lot of lobbying and might not need some heavy equipment or any expense in heavy buildings or big buildings will have a much lower overhead. So it's hard to compare apples to apples and really make a judgment. So Great Nonprofits enables people to assess that on a rating system, which is now what we're getting used to, even on Amazon again, with buying things. You can see people's, not only their star system, but their comments, which I think is becoming just more and more a way that we're trying to get a closer view of charities and how they work, which is great.
You know, I saw that people can also create fundraisers on your site. How does that work?
So we enable people to design a personalized page. They get to list their charity or even multiple charities that they want to raise funds for. They get to put in their personal message and appeal for why they're raising funds. They get to add pictures and a thermometer to measure their progress. And it's a way for people to easily reach out to their peers, their friends and families, to appeal to raise money for a cause. And the benefit is not only the ease of it, which is easily putting your email addresses and sending out the same message to everybody, but it's also a tracking mechanism where the donors come on, you get to see a report of who is given to your fundraising appeal, what dollar amount, and then they also automatically get a tax receipt. So you don't have to get involved in that, and people are excited to get their tax receipt. So you don't have to do that, but you can still use the report to know who to send a thank you to. So it's a really simple, and it's becoming a more popular and very quick way to raise funds for an organization that you care about.
We'll talk more about JustGive.org in just a moment, but right now I'd like to take a brief break and tell our listeners a bit about our game on Facebook called A Better World. A Better World encourages habits of goodness, positive mindsets, and giving to social causes to make a positive difference in the world. Players do things like express gratitude, share acts of kindness, send get-well notes to real-world sick children, just to name a few. You can find out more at abetterworld.com. So now, let's get back to our conversation with Kendall Webb, founder of JustGive.org. So, Kendall, the Internet has changed a lot since JustGive.org was founded in 2000. How has JustGive.org changed and adapted to keep up?
Yes, it's gotten, the Internet has gotten expansive. It's gotten faster. The primary answer is just enhanced technology, which is exciting. It gives us better ways to customize the products that we've built. It gives us a way to give people more detailed information. For example, our searches have become very micro in terms of keywords and tagging. People are able to find, it used to be when you wrote in a keyword such as, the environment, you get 80,000 results, and that's very hard to sort through. Now you can say the environment, oceans, and coral reefs, and you'll get something very specific, and you can even now put a zip code in there so that you can get a localized, detailed search for what you need. So that's been really exciting for us. And the second aspect is that because the Internet is changing so dramatically, it's enabled us to innovate new products. And one key thing that we've always been focused on is that, charitable giving is a part of American culture, the U.S. culture. We're big big charitable givers in general. But as we are getting busier and as we're more mobile and we're moving from community to community, it is harder to, people are worried that they're going to lose time and connection to their charities. So it used to be that you always gave to your local organization, but if you move every 3 years, you might not have time to really get integrated into that local community as much. So we try to create products that help people with their busy and mobile lives to stay connected, and we try to adapt to their busy lives. So we're constantly thinking about how to get the message out from the nonprofits to the donors, knowing that the bandwidth of time is short and the message has to be very poignant because people are getting lots of messages every day about many things. So we've used the Internet technology changes to enable us to do that. We can send specific messages to people that have specific interests, so our database can align people better. Things like that really help, and localization, as I mentioned, really help engage, to use that technology to get the donor to engage in targeted areas that they care about.
I was wondering also, do you have a favorite success story of something that, Just Give was able to do for one of its charity partners?
Yeah, I do. I have two that come to mind. One is small, and one is more of a sector change, a big sector change. The small one was the year we launched. We were very new to this. Everybody was very new to the Internet, even at the time. It's hard to imagine that, but people were, nervous about giving online and where does the money go. And there was a homeless shelter, and a lot of the large nonprofits were getting. There was a statistic that of the 600,000 charities, that 80% of the money went to 20% of the organizations. And that was really challenging. So if you were a small organization, it was very hard to get any funding and get any marketing word out there because they didn't have the money to send messaging out. So the Internet was great because it was an inexpensive way to let the small nonprofits have equal voice to the large nonprofits. And we had a homeless shelter who was actually closing because of lack of funds, and they had been struggling to raise every last penny, and they realized they couldn't do it. So they decided, they used to be in a busy neighborhood, and they got a lot of attraction from people walking by, but then they moved to an isolated location, and the donors couldn't see them, and they couldn't get the word out. So they launched a fundraising page, and within 1 hour, they raised 3 years of operating funds.
Wow.
So that was really exciting. They really didn't need a ton of money. They just needed exposure, and they were small, and they didn't know how else to do that. So with that funds, they actually opened a second shelter.
That's amazing.
So it was a win-win for the whole community, which was showing the power of the Internet. And then my bigger success story that comes to mind is when we were seeing the extension, and it still is growing, of reward points being handed out to everybody. And we noticed that back then especially, but even now, there's a propensity for programs to enable you to redeem your points for the travel industry at first. It was just for airplane tickets, if we can remember way back then. And then there was this big shift and expansion into retail, where all of a sudden Home Depot and Gap and a lot of companies could come in and offer the ability for people to redeem their points for a gift card. And so when we launched a couple of years into operating, we thought, well, why can people only redeem their credit card points for those two categories? There's a whole other category, charity, that is really needing those funds. So we approached some credit card companies, and as I mentioned earlier, American Express jumped on board, and they thought this was a very exciting opportunity. And it was incredibly popular overnight. People understood it. They redeemed their points within about 2 months of it launching. And this program, raises millions and millions of dollars per year now for very important causes. And I think that's very exciting because that's money that would not have gone to those charities if the program didn't exist.
Yeah, I think that's really exciting. I think it's a great program. I think it's true that, people have so many distractions, so many notifications, so many different things kind of competing for their attention. And so I think if they have the ability to so easily donate to a charity, especially with money that they've accumulated in rewards points, where, it's kind of like a bonus for them. And so if they're happy that they can use some of that to help some people in need or to help an organization getting off the ground, I think that's wonderful. Yeah,
it's exciting.
So obviously the holidays are coming up. Do you usually see an uptick in activity? How important is this time of year for Just Give?
Oh, it's huge. It's always traditionally been the predominant season of giving. In fact, when we launched, it used to be the like 85% of the donations would come through during the fall between Thanksgiving and January 1, the end of the year. But that, even though that has changed slightly and people are now giving all year round, and we're really encouraging that, it still is a huge season, and about 40% of all of our donations that come through our site are in the last 6 weeks of the year. And it increases exponentially in December as you get closer to December 31st. A huge part of that is the tax benefit of donating. So that's the incentive for a lot of people. We have a funny story that when we first launched, our clock was off by 2 minutes. And that threw everybody in a tizzy because they really wanted to get their donations in right up until the last minute. We never expected that was going to be such a high volume time. So now we ensure that our clock is accurate. But also people just think about giving traditionally, and also because of the cold weather, they start thinking about what's important and who's maybe less advantageous than themselves and who can they help. So it's a big time of year, and now they have a holiday for giving that's parallel to the retail side, which is called Giving Tuesday. And that's a day for people to kind of, right after Thanksgiving, instead of thinking immediately about buying things for the holidays, they want to get the attention and carve out that day to get people to think about giving before they get too distracted. And that's growing very quickly, and almost all nonprofits are involved in that. And it's a nice way to make sure it doesn't get lost in the holiday rush.
Definitely. Love Giving Tuesday. It's been a wonderful force for good, I think.
Yes.
So, obviously, this is really incredible. How can our listeners get involved, especially during this time of year when, if none time other, we're thinking about those in need?
I'm a big proponent of making sure that everybody finds a cause they care about, not waiting till that certain time of life when you have more time or more money or you're older, but start young, start early. Our world really needs it. The U.S. in particular thrives on social ventures, not relying on problems to be solved on their own, but that, us as citizens can really make massive change if we need to. So volunteer, donate. If you're an advocate about a cause, spread the word. And then on the donation side and the giving side of holidays in particular, I would say really strongly consider giving a charity gift card in lieu of gifts this year. It will help overall giving. It helps the landfill. It reminds people of the spirit of the holidays. It's easy. You don't have to go out and shop and find a parking spot and that kind of thing. But most importantly, I think a lot of people nowadays know that there are bigger issues out there in the world, and sometimes presents aren't necessarily the most important thing to give at the holiday time. So giving a charity card enables the recipient to know that these are charitable donations, and they get to direct where that card goes. So it's a replacement for a charity in someone's name, which I think doesn't work so well. Someone did that for me. A real estate agent did that for me one time, and it was very thoughtful. But the charity she picked, I felt like, didn't resonate with a cause that I cared about a lot. And so this enables the person to have the intent of having somebody give a donation, but they get to pick it themselves and make it very personal.
Sure.
So I really encourage people to think about how they can give a donation instead of a present this year.
Wonderful. And I think also it lets people feel more involved with that charity. You know, if someone does it for them, there's probably a disconnect. If they make the decision, I'm going to, donate this to this particular group, they create a connection that may stick with them and that organization for years to come.
That is a great point. There is there's a direct connection and a direct feeling of being involved longer term rather than just the one donation.
So I have just one question left. It's a question I ask every guest every week. In this case, how do you hope justgive.org is helping to make the world a better place?
Well, I'm hoping that our impact is making giving part of everybody's everyday lives. And not thinking of charitable giving as a separate channel in their life, that they're going to do, at some later point, in their life when everything is all set and they're retiring or they've made some money or a certain planned time in their life. But I'm trying to really encourage people to make it part of their everyday habits as our duty of being citizens. We encourage donating year-round, not just at this end of holiday season, to anything that concerns people when they see it in the news. Sure. They can jump online now. They can do some research. My daughter saw a movie about dolphins, and she was able to jump on to Just Give, do some searching about dolphins, and donate right then, even though it was April. And so we really encourage people to think about that all year long, and supporting friends' causes. These fundraising pages and crowdfunding are really enhancing the ability to help others when they have a cause in need, and then just reaching out to charities and thinking about them on a regular basis. And then the second thing I feel like Just Give does is in our fundraising products, in our donating products, we feel like we're creating new giving. So we're trying to find new pools of capital to increase overall giving, not just enable it to be easier for people to give, but we're hoping that people give more and they give more often. And that's, not just with the direct giving, but obviously also with the points and the gift cards. We are redirecting a portion of the retail sales over to charitable causes. And if we continue doing this, then we can actually increase overall giving that we do here in the U.S.
You can learn more about Just Give by going to justgive.org. Kendall, thank you so much for joining us today on BetterWorldians Radio.
Thank you so much.
BetterWorldians Radio is brought to you by BetterWorldians Foundation, a 501c3 nonprofit whose mission is to make the world a better place by encouraging the very best in everyone. Our philosophy is that it is important to plant flowers as it is to pull weeds. We focus on positive thinking, positive values, and positive actions. In short, our vision is to bring out the better world in everybody so that we can all make it a better world. But we can't do it without your help. Donations support our BetterWorldians Radio podcast, as well as go toward developing new features like articles, videos, blogs, and more. Go to BetterWorldians.com to be a part of this important vision. And until next time, please be a better worldian.